welcome to my channel. This is a new channel, so if you're into love stories, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure you click the bell notification, and that way you can get notified when I post a new video. I'm going to try to do, for sure, 1 video a week, but possibly 2. It just depends. If you have a love story that you want to have shared, be sure to go check out my email in the description box down below, and then you can send me an email. You can add pictures if you'd like. I'm pretty excited about this channel. You know, everything's kind of crazy and chaotic right now. I just wanted to be able to spread some love, and what better way to spread love than share love stories. I'm going to try to do 3 love stories per video, depending on how long the stories are. I know some can be longer. You know, if it's a longer one, then I won't share, but just that one. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's. The first love story I'm going to share today is a story about Fred and Florence. 7 decades ago, Fred Paul, 84, and Florence Harvey, 81, met as teenagers in Wandsworth, Canada. They became high school sweethearts, spending every moment that they could together. Fred and Florence would take walks after church, go to concerts together, and sneak in a kiss in between class. They spent every night together for the 2 years that they had dated. Fred, who lived across the bay from Florence, would signal goodnight and I love you to her by flickering his porch light. He told CNN that she was his first love, his first girlfriend, and his first true love. They ended up going their separate ways when Fred turned 18 and Florence was 15. Fred moved off to Toronto for work. A year later, Fred came back to look for her, but she had moved away to another town. So naturally, they moved on, married other people, and started their own families. In 2017, Florence had lost her husband, Lynn, to cancer. Lynn and Florence had been happily married for 57 years. The two ended up having 5 children. Fred, who was married to Helen, had 2 children. In 2019, Helen passed away after many health issues, and she had also suffered with dementia. Florence had heard that Fred's wife had passed away, so she called him up to tell him that things would slowly get better. They shared grief over losing their spouses, and this brought them back together. February 15th was the day that they had their first conversation after many years of not speaking. They talked about their lives, their kids, their grandkids, and they talked about their happy memories. Florence never expected that it would go past just talking that one time. However, she tells CNN that they went from talking once a week to twice to 3 times to every day for hours. Even though they hadn't seen each other in years, they really reconnected. Fred's birthday's in July, so Florence flew to Toronto to surprise him. They had reunited. Fred states, "When I found out she was in town and was coming to me, it was 10:30 at night. I ran out of bed, got dressed, and wrote 'Welcome Florence' in chalk on the driveway. And when she arrived, I walked to the car, gave her a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And I held her hand, and I knew right away that she had taken my heart." The couple were ready to be married after just 3 days of being reunited. This made their families question why they'd moved so fast. Fred and Florence were confident that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together and had no doubts about it at all. Fred had stomach cancer and was about to start treatment in a month. Florence was committed to being there with him through it all, during the good and even the bad times. On August 8th at Norval United Church, which is in Georgetown, Ontario, close friends and family had gathered there to witness Fred and Florence exchange their wedding vows. Their guest list was small because of the pandemic. During the ceremony, Florence tells Fred, "You were the first young man to walk me home in my teens. I guess you'll be the last man to walk me home." Paul Abney, the church's lead minister, officiated the ceremony. He has officiated over 500 wedding ceremonies in his career. Paul says that out of them all, that this one was the most moving, the most profound service that he was ever a part of. He explains that they had been married for years, truly fulfilling their vows to their first spouses by keeping their vows sacred. They have all of this wisdom now with everything that they've been through, good and bad, and now they're ready to say those vows again to each other. They're not being young and naive, but they're older and wiser, and they really would mean them. He goes on to say that it was so powerful. After the ceremony, Fred, who plays accordion, pulled it out and sang "I Wouldn't Change You If I Could" by Ricky Skaggs to his new bride. Ivany said there wasn't a dry eye in the house, and the people that were there were witnessing an unimaginable love story. Florence and Fred made plans to retrace their first chapters of their story. They made plans to visit the town where they first met and where they fell in love all of those years ago. Such a sweet story. Such a sweet story. I just love it. All right, so let's move on to story number 2. So this story is about Dennis and Karen. This story actually kind of has a plot twist to it, and I thought it was really, really neat and really cool. So let's get into story number 2. In the 1950s, Dennis Biner and Karen Lehman were Brownton High School sweethearts. They were madly in love. Karen ended up getting pregnant, and her parents wouldn't let her see Dennis anymore. They also had decided that adoption was the best thing for the baby. Dennis proposed to her, but the adults wouldn't let that happen. When the baby girl was born, they put her up for adoption. Dennis went on to join the army, and Karen went off to college. 50 years later, Dennis, who was living in Eden Prairie, went to a party in 2014. Someone at the party asked him, if you were given 60 days to live, who would you talk to? His answer, Karen Lehman. In 1997 to 2016, Dennis had lived in Eden Prairie. He was the owner of a marketing company which was in the hospitality industry and casinos. In October 2014, a friend of Dennis persuaded him to join LinkedIn. He did, and wondered if he could find Karen that way. He decided to search for her, and there she was. She was the third person on the list. He found out that she lived and worked in Monroe, Washington. The following day, October 25th, 2014, he decided to call her at her job. The receptionist answered and was stunned by what he said. Within 10 minutes, Karen made the call to Dennis. When he answered, she said, "How did you find me?" His response was, "Whatever happened to hi, hello, how are you? What have you been up to?" After their conversation that night, he learned that she was a widow and she learned that he was divorced. Dennis was so eager to fly out there the next day, Karen wouldn't allow it. He says, "We had a 3-month digital courtship. When they were younger, he had asked her twice to marry him, and she said no both times. When Karen had the baby, they both held her for a few minutes. They named her Denise, but her adoptive parents ended up naming her Jean." January 2015, Dennis flew to Portland to see his son. Afterwards, he went to see Karen in Monroe, and they married January 22nd, 2015. He ended up selling his business, and she ended up retiring. They both sold their homes. They had planned to move to northern Arizona, but they wanted to find their daughter. They reached out to Lutheran Social Services. They helped by looking for her pro bono. They did look for her, and they did find her, and she was reunited with her parents. The couple live in Northfield, Minnesota. It's a popular place for retirees, and it's also 30 minutes away from their daughter, Jean. Jean states, "Imagine being 55 years old and you hear that your parents are together now and that they're looking for you." I thought that was a really cool story. It's really sweet, and just the fact that they were able to find their daughter and now they're all reunited, I think that's really cool. It's really sweet. So the last story is one that I'm not sure if it's real. I'm not sure if it's a real story. I remember reading about it years ago, and I've searched the internet. I can't find anything on it. Maybe I dreamt it. I don't know, but I thought it was a really, really sweet story. If you remember this story, let me know in the comments below, or if you know where I can find it, or if I've twisted it a little bit, maybe I'm not telling it right, you feel free to chime in and help me out, because I just thought this was a really, really sweet story. I don't remember the couple's names. I do remember that they were a married couple and they were living over in Germany, and they were separated during the Holocaust. The man went on and the woman went on. They went their separate ways because they were separated. Years later, the man ends up moving to the United States. He's at this church. He walks by this church, and he has a fascination with old churches and the insides of them. And he sees the priest that's sitting outside, and he asks, "Can I come in and look at the church? I'm fascinated by old churches, and this one's beautiful, and I want to come in and look." So the priest says, "Yeah, sure, of course." So they go in, they start to look, and then they go to this room, and on the wall hangs this really, really large quilt, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful quilt. The man stares at it, and he's all freaked out over this quilt. And the priest says, one of our members gave us this quilt. She said it held a lot of special meaning. So she wanted to donate it to the church because she didn't have a place for it at her house. We decided to hang it up because it's just absolutely beautiful. And the man says, that is a one-of-a-kind quilt. My wife had a quilt exactly like this. My wife made this quilt. Or if not this one exactly like it. And I know that my wife put her name on the back of the quilt. The priest was like, oh. The man tells the story. You know, my wife and I lived in Germany. We were split up. I never was able to find her. So I decided to go ahead and move here to the States, start my life over. I never remarried because I was so in love with my wife. There was nobody else that could ever take her place. And I just assumed that she had died. And the priest starts to tear up and he looks at the man and he says, I think this might be your wife, because the story that she tells is so similar. She never remarried because she thought her husband had passed away, and she was so in love with her husband that she could never remarry, and she felt that nobody could ever take his place. The quilt, it was something that she was holding on to because her husband was so enamored by it and loved it so much that she just felt like she could not give it up. And the only reason why she was donating it to the church was because she was a member of that church and she would still be able to see that quilt every time she was there. The man and the priest walk up to the quilt, they turn the quilt over, and sure enough, her name is on the back of that quilt. So the priest makes a phone call, calls her, sets everything up, and then the next day they meet and they reunite. And they lived happily ever after. I don't know if that's a real story, but I remember reading that so many years ago and I can't find it. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I dreamt it, but it was such a wholesome story. And just the fact that they both never remarried because they loved each other so much they could never find anybody to replace their spouse, it made me cry. And it was such a sweet story. And if you've heard of it and I'm not going crazy, let me know in the comments down below. Or if maybe I messed something up and you're like, no, this is how it went. Or if you have the link to the story, let me know. Because it is such a sweet story. And I want to tell it right, especially if it's a real story. If it's not, that's, you know, still a sweet story. But anyway, if you're into these kinds of stories and you want to hear more, be sure to hit the subscribe button, click the bell notification so you can get notified of when I post a new video. Like I said, I'm going to try to do 1 or 2 a week. I also have 2 other channels. I will post links down below. One of them I've had for a long time and it's got all sorts of different stuff in it. Like I have videos of me doing sign language to songs. I'm going to start trying to post on that one kind of daily, do some funny stuff. Like I'm posting a video today, it's called Entitled People. So if you're just into whatever, go check out that channel. Make sure you subscribe. Also, I have another one if you're into true crime. I have 2 videos posted already. I was going to start posting more. I just haven't had a chance. So I'm going to be working on one today. I'm going to edit it and then I'll have it posted. So if you're into all those kinds of different genres, true crime, love stories, and just whatever, be sure to check out all the other channels. If you have a story that you want to share, go to the description box down below, get the email me the story. You can send pictures. I will post them. Y'all have a great day and I will see you in the next video. Bye.